Chapter 22, Chemical Coordination and Integration. Chapter Chemical Coordination and Integration. Here the very important chapter in regarding need that we need to focus here. You have already learned that the neural system provides a point-to-point rapid coordination among the organs. Neural system provides a point-to-point rapid coordination among the organs. The neural coordination is fast but short-lived. Neural coordination is fast, short-lived. We discussed about the neural control and coordination in the previous classes. So that we have seen that was neural coordination is fast and short-lived. As the nerve fiber do not innervate all cells of the body, and the cellular functions need to be continuously regulated. A special kind of coordination and integration has to be provided. The function is carried out by hormones. So what we are saying here, not reaching the neural control cannot reach toward the cell level. Now the cell level control is possible by hormones. The neural system and the endocrine system jointly coordinate and regulate the physiological functions in the body. Neural and endocrine system jointly coordinate and regulate the physiological functions in the body. Then, endocrine glands and their hormones. Endocrine glands lacks ducts, and hence we call them as ductless glands. Endocrine glands are lack ducts here. That's why we call them as ductless glands. Their secretions are called as hormones. Secretions of endocrine glands are called hormones. The classical definition of the hormone is the chemical produced by endocrine glands and released into the blood and transported to a distantly located target organ has current scientific definition as follows. The hormones are non-nutrient chemicals which act as intercellular messengers and are produced in trace amounts. Okay, we have two definitions here. A classical definition of hormone as a chemical produced by endocrine glands and released into the blood. Okay, and transported to a distantly located target organ. Okay, so that is the classical definition of the hormone, the chemical produced by endocrine glands and released into the blood and transported to a distantly located target organ. Then now the scientific definition, current scientific definition follows. The hormones are the non-nutrient chemicals which act as intercellular messengers and are produced in trace amounts. Trace amounts. What is trace amount? That little, very little they are going to release over. But though even they get released over small amounts, that work, their efficiency because of the amplification method we discussed earlier, that is cyclic amplification, make them one to the another to the another to the action is going to be multiplied over. Though they get even released in trace amount, their action is bigger. That's what we have to talk about. The new definition covers a number of new molecules in addition to the hormones secreted by the organized endocrine glands. The invertebrates possess very simple endocrine system with few hormones, whereas large number of chemicals act as hormones and provide coordination in case of vertebrates. The human endocrine system is described here. We need to discuss about the human endocrine system. Let's talk about the human endocrine system. The endocrine glands and hormones producing diffuse tissues or cells located in different parts of the body constitute the endocrine system. So what are the endocrine glands? The pituitary, pineal, thyroid, adrenal, pancreas, parathyroid, thymus, and gonads like testis in male and ovary in female are the organized endocrine bodies in our body. In addition to these, some other organs like gastrointestinal tract, liver, kidney, heart also produce hormones. Then a brief account of the structure and functions of all major endocrine glands. and hypothalamus of the human body given in the following sections. Let us see. From the hypothalamus, we are going to begin it from the hypothalamus. As you know, the hypothalamus is the basal portion of the diencephalon, the forebrain, and it regulates a wide spectrum of body functions. It contains several groups of neurosecretory cells. It contains several groups of neurosecretory cells called as nuclei. Nuclei, whom we call nuclei, aggregation of cell bodies, can be called as nuclei. In case of CNS, the cell body aggregation can be called as nuclei. So what it is saying here, it contains several groups of neurosecretory cells. These are all the several groups of neurosecretory cells, which we call them as nuclei, and these are producing hormones. The hormones regulate the synthesis and secretion of pituitary hormones. Hormones of the hypothalamus regulate the synthesis and secretion of the pituitary hormone. However, the hormones produced by hypothalamus are of two types. One is releasing hormone, and which stimulate the secretion of the pituitary hormones, and other is inhibiting hormones, and the inhibiting hormone which inhibit the secretions of the pituitary hormone. So for example, the hypothalamic hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone. So the gonadotropin hormones are actually hormones of the pituitary gland, which there are two types of gonadotropin hormones are there in pituitary gland, FSH and LH. So from where it is? It is from pituitary gland. Okay. So that hormones, hypothalamic hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus. This is from hypothalamus that we need to remember. This is from hypothalamus. From the hypothalamus, gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulate the pituitary synthesis, and that makes the release of gonadotropin hormones. On the other hand, somatostatin from the hypothalamus inhibit the release of growth hormone from the pituitary. That's another case actually. That means if you take growth hormone of the pituitary gland, growth hormone actually released from pituitary gland. So from the hypothalamus, we'll have two types of hormones coming from there. GHRH, that means growth hormone releasing hormone, stimulate the pituitary for growth hormone. Then GHIH, growth hormone inhibiting hormone. So this is the somatostatin we have to talk about. This is growth hormone inhibiting hormone is nothing but called somatostatin hormone. So that's somatostatin or growth hormone inhibiting hormone going to inhibit the growth hormone of the pituitary when the secretions of the growth hormone are more in the body. Okay, so that is the mechanism that we discussed here earlier, but we are just while reading textbook here, I am making to remember all the things for you. That from the hypothalamus inhibit the release of growth hormone from the pituitary. These hormones originating in the hypothalamic neuron. That what hormones? Releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones originating in the hypothalamic neuron pass through the axons and are released from their nerve endings. These hormones reach the pituitary gland through a portal circulatory system and regulate the functions of the anterior pituitary. Regulate the functions of anterior pituitary. How do they reach? Through the portal circulation. Then the posterior pituitary is under the direct neural regulation of the hypothalamus. That let us see that in the diagram. Here it is that this is a hypothalamic nuclei. Then these are the hypothalamic nuclei. So this is the portal circulation. I am using black here to. I am using red color here to show this. This is the hypothalamic secretion, the growth hormone, releasing hormone through the portal circulation reaches to the pituitary, and there it stimulates the anterior pituitary for the secretion of growth hormone. Inhibition also done from here. The growth hormone inhibiting hormone. The growth hormone inhibiting hormone released from here and inhibit the secretion of growth hormone. So that means you need to understand hypothalamus is doing both for secretion releasing hormone. For secret that inhibition, inhibiting hormone. So whatever here in the anterior pituitary, whatever hormones are there, they're all regulated by either releasing or inhibiting. You need to change the prefix, that's all. That means if you are talking about the gonadotropic hormones from here, GTH. So for that, GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, GTH, nothing but what I said to you, the GTH nothing but two, FSH and LH, which is released from anterior pituitary. So gonadotropin hormones, nothing but FSH and LH. So their secretions are stimulated high here like this by releasing hormone. Then if you want to inhibit GnIH, so that will come and stop the FSH and LH, nothing but called gonadotropin releasing hormone. Then for posterior pituitary, what kind of connection is there? Straight away hypothalamic neurons with their axons are having connection, which are going to release two hormones, oxytocin and vasopressin, which will release it from the hypothalamic hormones and going to be stored here. Okay, let me continue here. The pituitary gland, location of the pituitary gland. Location here, the pituitary gland located in the bony cavity called sella turcica. Sella turcica, that to be remembered over, and is attached to the hypothalamus by a stalk or infundibulum, we say. Okay, it is divided anatomically, pituitary gland divided anatomically into adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Adenohypophysis consists of two portions, pars distalis, pars intermedia. Okay, so let's see one after another. The pars distalis region of pituitary, commonly called anterior pituitary. Pars distalis region of the pituitary is commonly called anterior pituitary. It is going to produce the hormones like growth hormone, which is briefly called GH, prolactin, growth hormone, prolactin, thyroid stimulating hormone or TSH, then adrenocorticotropic hormone, which briefly called ACTH, luteinizing hormone LH, follicle stimulating hormone. So these are the hormones released from the anterior pituitary. Next, the pars intermedia secrete that melanocyte stimulating hormone. Melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay, so what we said, there are two, adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. In adenohypophysis, that we have two parts here, pars distalis and a region which is evenly called as anterior pituitary, pars distalis. Okay, one is what is another one? Pars intermedia. In our text, there is no representation of pars tuberalis. We have one more, pars tuberalis, but we have given, they are given only two, pars distalis and pars intermedia. So what we are saying about the pars distalis region of the pituitary, pars distalis region of the pituitary is having the hormones from here, the growth hormone, hormone secreted from here, growth hormone, prolactin, and thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, LH, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, then they're all released from here. Pars intermedia is having only one hormone, that is melanocyte stimulating hormone. However, in humans, the pars intermedia is almost merged with pars distalis. You don't find pars intermedia clearly, that pars distalis, it is merged actually. Neurohypophysis, which is called pars nervosa, also known as posterior pituitary, also known as posterior pituitary. Who is known as anterior pituitary? Pars distalis. Okay, so what it do? It stores and releases two hormones called oxytocin and vasopressin. Actually, these hormones are released from hypothalamic neuron, but going to be stored here. Oxytocin and vasopressin going to store in the neurohypophysis, which are actually synthesized by the hypothalamus and are transported axonally. What is this? See that arrow mark, axonally to the axon that reaches to the neurohypophysis. Okay. Then oversecretion of the growth hormone stimulates abnormal growth of the body, leading to gigantism. That hypersecretion leading to gigantism. From here, what to be remembered or I am showing. And low secretion of the growth hormone results in stunted growth, resulting pituitary dwarfism. Hyposecretion, pituitary dwarfism. Hypersecretion, gigantism in case of children. The prolactin regulates the growth of the mammary gland and formation of milk in them. The TSH stimulates the synthesis and secretion of the thyroid hormones from the thyroid gland. ACTH stimulates the synthesis and secretion of the steroid hormones called glucocorticoids from the adrenal cortex. LH and FSH. LH and FSH stimulates the gonadial activity that and hence we call them as gonadotropins. FSH and LH collectively called gonadotropins. Okay, FSH and LH. Okay, then LH stimulates the and synthesis and secretion of the hormones called androgens from testes in males. FSH and that let me see here that LH stimulates synthesis and secretion of the hormones called androgens from testes in case of male. In males, FSH and androgens regulate spermatogenesis. FSH and androgens. FSH and androgens. You need to understand where I stress, where I pronounce. There more possibility of the questions in NEET. Okay, so that's why I'm going to stress in that area. FSH and androgens. Then males, FSH and androgens regulate spermatogenesis. Okay. Next, what in female? In female, LH induces in female LH induces ovulation. A fully mature follicle. Fully mature follicle is called Graafian follicle, and maintain the corpus luteum formed from the remnants of the Graafian follicle after ovulation. LH induces ovulation, a fully mature follicle, and maintains the corpus luteum formed from the remnants of the Graafian follicle after ovulation. What is the function of FSH then? FSH stimulates the growth and development of the ovarian follicles in female. That means follicle stimulating hormone will convert a primary follicle into mature Graafian follicle. Okay, so what LH can do? LH can make ovulation process, that release of secondary oocyte, and after that maintenance of the corpus luteum after the ovulation. Leftover portion of the Graafian follicle is called corpus luteum. Okay, next some other. MSH acts on the melanocytes, melanin containing cell, and regulate the pigmentation of the skin. Okay, oxytocin acts on smooth muscles of our body and stimulate their contraction. In case of females, it stimulates a vigorous contraction of uterus at the time of childbirth and milk ejection from the mammary gland. The functions of oxytocin. Oxytocin acts on the smooth muscles of our body and stimulate their contraction. So particularly talking about female, it stimulates a vigorous contraction of the uterus at the time of childbirth and milk ejection from the mammary gland. Vasopressin, which we also call ADH, antidiuretic hormone, acts mainly at the kidney and stimulates. Kidney, particularly, we need to say distal convoluted tubule. In distal convoluted tubule of the nephron of the kidney, it stimulates the resorption of water and electrolyte by the distal tubules and thereby reduces the loss of water through urine. Loss of water through urine, it is called diuresis. So that's why we call this hormone as antidiuretic hormone. This hormone said to be antidiuretic hormone because it prevents diuresis. What is diuresis? Loss of water. Next, let's talk about the pineal gland. The pineal gland is located on the dorsal side of the forebrain. The pineal gland is located on the dorsal side of forebrain. Location we said now. And pineal secrete a hormone called melatonin. Okay, so the gland located on dorsal side of forebrain. The secretion from the gland is melatonin. What type of function? The melatonin plays a very important role in the regulation of 24-hour diurnal rhythm of our body. What do you call the diurnal rhythm? Circadian rhythm. Diurnal rhythm of our body is called circadian rhythm. So that circadian rhythm is maintained by this melatonin hormone. For example, it helps in maintaining the normal rhythms of sleep-wake cycle that will come in 24-hour day cycle, sleep and wake. Then we have that body temperature. There is another function here, sleep-wake cycle, body temperature. In addition, melatonin also influence metabolism, pigmentation, and the menstrual cycle as well as our defense capability. The functions we need to remember here. Let me show the functions again. We said 24-hour diurnal rhythm of our body it maintain, and normal rhythms like sleep wake cycle, body temperature, and influences the metabolism, pigmentation, then the menstrual cycle as well as our defense capability. So they're all the functions of the pineal gland. Okay, then now let's move towards thyroid gland. Thyroid gland. The thyroid gland, location of thyroid gland, it composed of two lobes which are located on either sides of the trachea. In the picture you are observing, you are looking towards the trachea. So here either sides we can see the thyroid glands. These are the thyroid glands. Okay. So then both the lobes are interconnected with a thin flap of connective tissue. The thin flap of connective tissue. This is a thin flap of connective tissue we call isthmus. The thyroid gland is composed of follicles and stromal tissues. Then each thyroid follicle is composed of follicular cells enclosing a cavity. These follicular cells synthesize two hormones, the tetraiodothyronin or thyroxine, tetraiodothyronin or thyroxine, and triiodothyronin. If it is asked focused way, who is called thyroxine if it is asked over according to the NCERT textbook? T4 is considered as that thyroxine. You see that lines, you can see tetraiodothyronin or thyroxine. Okay. And the triiodothyronin is also one more hormone. By looking toward this, we came to understand that iodine is essential for the normal rate of hormone synthesis in the thyroid. Iodine is essential. The deficiency of iodine in our diet results in hypothyroidism, enlargement of the thyroid gland, which is commonly called as goiter. During this particular gland is going to be enlarged due to the lack of iodine. So that we say simple goiter disease, we can say. Okay, then hypothyroidism during pregnancy causes a defective development and maturation of the growing baby, leading to stunted growth. What do you say? Cretinism. So during embryonic development in the mother during gestation, there may be a possibility of cretinism. Okay, so that cretinism, which leads to that mental retardation, low intelligence quotient, abnormal skin, deaf mutism, they're all going to be the symptoms we say for cretinism. In adult women, hypothyroidism in adult may cause menstrual cycle to become irregular due to the hyposecretion of the thyroid gland. In female, the menstrual cycle may become irregular. Okay, due to cancer of the thyroid gland or due to the development of nodules of the thyroid gland. That means more other nodules are developed in the thyroid gland. So that means they are doing more secretion of the thyroxine that leads to that increases to abnormal high levels, leading to a condition called hyperthyroidism, which adversely affects the body physiology, So how the thyroid hormone play an important role in the regulation of the basic metabolic rate functions. We are talking the regulation of the basic metabolic rate. These hormones also support the process of red blood cell formation. Thyroid hormone control the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, Maintenance of water and electrolyte balance is also influenced by thyroid hormone. Thyroid gland also secrete a protein hormone called TCT, thyrocalcitonin, which is going to regulate the blood calcium level. So need to focus here, basal metabolic rate and production of red blood cell, process of red blood cell formation, and the maintenance of the water electrolyte balance. When we say immediately water electrolyte balance, we'll remember adrenal gland. But thyroxine is also helpful for the maintenance of the water and electrolyte balance that we need to remember. And secrete a protein hormone called thyrocalcitonin. We can say it as thyrocalcitonin along with thyroxine, one more hormone. What is the function? It maintains blood calcium levels. Okay. So parathyroid gland. Parathyroid gland. In humans, four parathyroid glands are present on the backside of the thyroid gland. Let us see once that parathyroid gland on the backside of the thyroid gland. We said there are four parathyroid glands are present here. What is whatever given in red color? These are the four parathyroid glands in the backside of the thyroid gland. So I've seen that. That's why they call parathyroid. Para means a side. A side of what? Thyroid gland. That's why we say them as parathyroid gland. In humans, how many glands are present? Four parathyroid glands are present in the back side of the thyroid gland. One pair each in the two lobes of the thyroid gland. The parathyroid gland secrete a peptide hormone called parathyroid hormone. Going to secrete a peptide hormone called parathyroid hormone. The secretion of the parathyroid hormone is regulated by circulating levels of calcium ions. Okay, then let's talk about the parathyroid. Parathyroid hormone increases the calcium levels in blood. Earlier we have seen calcitonin from thyroid is also in the calcium metabolism, which is opposite to this function. So what we said, it increases the calcium levels in blood. So that calcitonin decreases the calcium levels in the blood. Then what it do? PTH acts on bones and stimulates the process of bone resorption. Resorption means dissolution or demineralization. That means it withdraws the calcium from the bones and it increases the calcium levels in the blood. PTH also stimulates the reabsorption of the calcium by the renal tubules and increases calcium absorption from the digested food. It is thus clear that the PTH is a hypercalcemic hormone. Hypercalcemic hormone. That means it increases calcium levels in the blood. That's why we say it as hypercalcemic hormone. It increases the blood calcium levels. Along with TCT, thyrocalcitonin, it plays a significant role in excuse me, significant role in calcium balance in the body. Significant role it play in the calcium balance in the body. Okay, next, thymus. Thymus gland. Thymus gland is a lobular structure. Thymus gland is a lobular structure located between the lungs behind the sternum on the ventral side of aorta. The thymus gland location we are saying now, the lobular structure located between the lungs behind sternum on the ventral side of aorta. The thymus plays a major role in the development of immune system. Thymus plays a major role in the development of the immune system. This gland secretes the peptide hormones called thymosin. This gland secretes a hormone from thymus gland is thymosin, hormone from the thymus gland. Thymosin. What is the function of thymosin? Thymosin play a major role in the differentiation of the T lymphocytes, which provide cell-mediated immunity. T lymphocytes are providing cell-mediated immunity that thymosin play major role in the differentiation of the T lymphocyte. In addition, thymosin also promote the production of antibodies to provide humoral immunity. It also provides production of antibodies. The function major role in the differentiation of T lymphocytes and promote the production of antibodies. Then thymus is degenerated. These two are the functions here to be remembered. The thymus is degenerated in old individual, resulting a decreased production of thymosin. As a result, the immune responses of the old person become weak. Okay. Next, adrenal gland. So let's talk about the adrenal gland. Our body has one pair of adrenal glands. Our body is having one pair of adrenal glands. That one, let's talk about adrenal gland. I'm showing here clearly. Then once at the anterior part of each kidney, that's why we call them as suprarenal gland, above the kidney that is present. The gland is composed of two types of tissues. The centrally located tissue is called as adrenal medulla, and outside that lies is said to be adrenal cortex. Adrenal medulla inside and adrenal cortex outside. That is the basic structure of adrenal gland. Let's continue. The adrenal gland, here it is, adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla, clearly shown in the diagram. So this is the cortex portion, the centrally located adrenal medulla. Okay, then the adrenal medulla. Let's talk about the adrenal medulla. Adrenal medulla secrete two hormones called adrenaline or epinephrine. Adrenaline or epinephrine. Noradrenaline or norepinephrine. You see. So these are commonly called catecholamines. So do remember these. These are commonly called catecholamines. Epinephrine, norepinephrine are commonly called catecholamines. So adrenaline or noradrenaline, which are also called epinephrine or norepinephrine, rapidly secreted in response to the stress of any kind and during emergency situations are called, these are also called emergency hormones or flight and fight hormones. Okay, these hormones increase alertness, pupillary dilation, piloerection, that means raising of hair, then sweating, all these activities done by this particular hormone, and both the hormones increase that heartbeat, collective function, that both hormones increases heartbeat, the strength of heart contraction, and the rate of respiration. The catecholamines also stimulate the breakdown of glycogen, resulting in increased concentration of the glucose in blood. These are all the functions. In addition, they also stimulate the breakdown of lipids and proteins. Okay, so hormone increases alertness, pupillary dilation, piloerection, sweating. We call this hormone as fight, flight, fright. 3F gland. I'm not going into the more details here. Now, this session is only for NCERT textbook. Only for NCERT textbook. We all discussed in detail in previous classes. This session is only reading what is highlighted in NCERT. So adrenal cortex can be divided into three layers called zona reticularis, inner layer, zona reticularis. Next, the zona fasciculata. Zona fasciculata is the middle layer. Zona fasciculata. Okay. Then the zona glomerulosa is the outer layer. Zona glomerulosa is the outer layer. This is the outer layer. Zona glomerulosa. Next, middle layer, zona fasciculata. Innermost layer, zona reticularis. The sequence is very important for us. Zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis. From outer, middle, inner. Okay, so outer, middle, inner. And then the adrenal cortex secrete many hormones commonly called corticoids. The hormones from the adrenal gland, we say corticoids. We call them as corticoids. Then adrenal cortex secrete many hormones commonly called corticoids. The corticoids which are involved in carbohydrate metabolism are called as glucocorticoids. And in our body, cortisol is the main glucocorticoid. So to be remembered the hormone glucocorticoid, that is cortisol. In our body, the cortisol is the main glucocorticoid. Then the corticoids which regulate the balance of the water and electrolytes in our body are called as mineralocorticoids. So who is the major mineralocorticoid? Aldosterone. Aldosterone is the main mineralocorticoid in our body. So glucocorticoids means cortisol stimulate. Glucocorticoids means cortisol stimulate gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, and proteolysis, and inhibit cellular uptake and utilization of the amino acids. Okay, the cortisol is also involved in maintaining the cardiovascular system as well as the kidney functions. The functions of the cortisol, we are talking, the cortisol is just for gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, proteolysis, and inhibit cellular uptake and the utilization of the amino acids. Then cortisol is also involved in the maintaining the cardiovascular system as well as the kidney functions. Glucocorticoids, particularly cortisol, produces, this is very important function to be remembered, anti-inflammatory reaction and suppresses the immune response. Anti-inflammatory reactions and suppresses the immune response. Exaggerated immune responses are still suppressed by cortisol. Cortisol stimulates the RBC production. So more functions are given for cortisol. So need to take a look back again because this is the only and primary area where we get more questions and where students are going to confuse more number of times. Let me show you once again the functions. The stimulate the gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, and proteolysis. One, and inhibit the cellular uptake and utilization of the amino acid. Two, then also involved in the maintenance of the cardiovascular system as well as kidney functions. Three, that means while making notes, it will be helpful for you. The glucocorticoid, particularly cortisol, produce anti-inflammatory reactions and suppress the immune response. Four, and it is also in the RBC production. That is 5. Okay, so these are very, very important functions of the glucocorticoids. That major glucocorticoid is the cortisol. As I do remember you, they are released from zona fasciculata. Glucocorticoids are released from zona fasciculata. Okay, then let's continue with mineralocorticoids, which are released from the zona glomerulosa. The mineralocorticoids from zona glomerulosa. Who is the major mineralocorticoid? Aldosterone, which acts mainly at the renal tubules, and stimulate the reabsorption of the sodium and water and excretion of potassium and phosphate. That while statement wise even we'll get here. So read once again that renal secret tubules, aldosterone acts mainly on the renal tubules and stimulate the reabsorption of sodium and water and excretion of the potassium and phosphate ion. Thus, aldosterone helps in the maintenance of electrolytes, we can see, and body fluid volume, osmotic pressure, blood pressure. So they're all activities of the aldosterone. So how do it maintain maintenance of electrolyte, body fluid volume, osmotic pressure, blood pressure? How do it maintain? That's the above. That stimulate the reabsorption of sodium and water and excretion of the potassium and phosphate ion. Okay. Then small amounts of androgenic steroids are also secreted by adrenal cortex, which play a role in the growth of axial hair, pubic hair, and facial hair during puberty. So that what we are talking about, zona reticularis. Zona reticularis. Before we go, let me show you once again There are three layers: zona glomerulosa, which is going to secrete mineralocorticoid, and major mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. Zona fasciculata, glucocorticoid, and major glucocorticoid is cortisol. Zona reticularis, that the sex corticoids are released from the zona reticularis. This is the order: outer, middle, inner. So zona reticularis, the sex corticoids that we say androgenic steroids are also secreted by the adrenal cortex. What we said, they play role in the growth of axial hair, pubic hair, and facial hair during puberty. This is the story of adrenal gland. That thyroid, adrenal, these two are more productive areas. We need to revise them again and again. More productive in what I mean, an examination point of view, neat examination point of view. Pancreas is considered, let's start the pancreas. Pancreas is considered as composite gland. The pancreas is considered as a, excuse me, is that considered as a composite gland. Why? Why it is called composite gland, which acts as both exocrine gland and endocrine gland. The endocrine pancreas consists of islets of Langerhans. Endocrine portion of the pancreas consists of islets of Langerhans. There are about 1 to 2 millions of islets of Langerhans in a normal human pancreas, representing only 1 to 2% of the pancreatic tissue. That means 98, 99% of the pancreas is exocrine, which is going to secrete enzymes. Just 1 to 2% of the pancreas is called endocrine, which is with islets of Langerhans. Islets of Langerhans are present, and what we said, that islets of Langerhans itself having 1 to the 2 millions of islets of Langerhans are present in the 2% only. Okay, so what are there in the islets of Langerhans? The two main type of cells in the islets of Langerhans are called alpha cell and beta cell. Alpha cell secrete a hormone called glucagon, and beta cell secrete a hormone called insulin. Hormone from the beta cells is insulin. Okay, the glucagon. Talk about the glucagon. Let's talk about glucagon is peptide hormone and plays an important role in the maintaining of normal blood glucose level. How? Glucagon acts mainly on the liver cells and stimulate the glycogenolysis. Glycogenolysis. What is glycogenolysis? Glycogen breakdown. If you break the glycogen, that in the form of glucose, so that what do you say? Glycogenolysis. We can say it as. Let me show you once again. Lysis means destruction. Destruction of what? Glycogen. When you break the glycogen, what happens? That results in the form of glucose. So that what is the function of glucagon? Glucagon acts mainly on the liver cell and stimulate the glycogenolysis, that resulting in an increased blood sugar. That means when you want more glucose in the blood, that we need the hormone called glucagon. We want glucagon. So what glucagon can do? Can break the glycogen and form the glucose, which leads to the blood glucose levels will increase. Increasing blood glucose levels, we use the word called hyperglycemia. Did you remember earlier we used hypercalcemia? The calcium level increase in the blood, hypercalcemia. So what is it? Hyperglycemia. Glucagon responsible for the hyperglycemia. In addition, these hormones stimulate the process of gluconeogenesis, which also contributes to the hyperglycemia. So what is gluconeogenesis? New. So genesis means production. So gluconeogenesis, production of glucose from new. What is new other than carbohydrates can be called new. That means from proteins or from fats. If you are producing the glucose, the process we say gluconeogenesis. And in general, what happens here? We have glycogen already. Stored glycogen is there. So we produce glucose from stored glycogen. That is called glycogenolysis. that glucagon is going to perform this action. In case it is not sufficient, if glycogen is not in sufficient way, what we'll do? We produce the glucose from other new substances. In what way the new here? Other than carbohydrate. That means either from protein or fat. We take first fat, then after protein. So that what do you call it as gluconeogenesis, which also contributes the hyperglycemia. That's all about the story. Then glucagon reduces the cellular glucose uptake and utilization. We need to correlate this particular thing here. What do you want exactly? We want glucose. So what it can do? It has three functions to do. It reduces the cellular glucose uptake and utilization, and it breaks glycogenolysis. It breaks the glycogen to form the glucose. That and addition that it also perform the gluconeogenesis. Okay, so ultimately blood glucose levels are going to be increased because of the glucagon whenever we feel necessary. That is the thing to be understood. Okay, so finally we are declaring that glucagon is an hyperglycemic hormone because it works to improve blood glucose levels. It works to increase the blood glucose level by glycogenolysis or by gluconeogenesis or by reducing the uptake, cellular glucose uptake and utilization. Okay, now let's talk about the insulin. Insulin is a peptide hormone. Insulin is a peptide hormone which plays a major role in the regulation of glucose homeostasis. Insulin acts mainly on hepatocytes. Insulin acts mainly on hepatocytes and adipocytes, where that stored food is there. That enhances the cellular glucose uptake and utilization. That means against glucagon. As a result, there is a rapid movement of the glucose from blood to hepatocytes and adipocytes, resulting in decreased blood glucose level. So, what do you say it as? Hypoglycemia. So, glucagon increases the blood glucose levels, hyperglycemia. Then, insulin then decreases the blood glucose level. So, what do you say? Hypoglycemia. This is insulin and this is glucagon. So in the target cells, that it promotes the glycogenesis. Who is the target cell? Liver, that the target cell. Then the glucose homeostasis in blood is thus maintained by these two hormones, glucagon and insulin. Whenever the necessary action is required, that means if we have more blood glucose levels, we want insulin. If your glucose levels are less, we want glucagon. So that's it. Then prolonged hyperglycemia is dangerous. Prolonged hyperglycemia, that means glucose levels, if they are more in the blood for a longer period of time, why, in what conditions they will be in the longer period of time when blood glucose levels are increased, who should come? Then when blood glucose levels are increased, insulin should come and to remove that blood glucose level, promoting the glycogenesis, isn't it? But in the hyposecretion of the insulin, that leads to a complex disorder called diabetes mellitus, which is associated with loss of glucose through urine. Because excess, if it is there, either it has to go towards the liver cell, which insulin can do for conversion of glucose into glycogen. But if the insulin is not managing, insulin is not doing this activity, excess glucose will go through the urine and formation of harmful compounds known as ketone bodies. This is very important to remember, ketone bodies. Diabetic patients are successfully treated with insulin therapy. Okay, so what we discussed, that is type 2 diabetes. Discussion we made earlier. So just I am reading NCERT text. Now, moving on. The testes. A pair of testes is present in the scrotal sac outside the abdomen. That scrotal sac is present of male individuals. The testes perform dual functions as a primary sex organ as well as it acts as an endocrine gland. The testis is composed of seminiferous tubules and stromal or interstitial tissue. That the Leydig cells are interstitial cells which are present and the intertubular spaces. That means the seminiferous tubules are present all over that we have to discuss. Well, we'll discuss in case of reproductive system. So now we are talking about intertubular cells. That means between the tubules of the seminiferous tubules, we'll find some special cells. What are the Leydig cells or interstitial cells? These Leydig cells or interstitial cells are going to secrete the group of hormones called androgens, mainly testosterone. The androgens, what is the function of androgen? Let's talk about the function. They regulate the development, maturation, and functions of the male accessory sex organs like epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, urethra. Okay, these hormones stimulate the muscular growth, growth of facial and axillary hair, aggressiveness, low pitch of voice. All these are done by androgens, testosterone. Androgen play a role, a major role, a major stimulatory role in the process of spermatogenesis. Androgen act on the central nervous system and influence the male sexual behavior, which is called libido. That these hormones produce anabolic or synthetic effects on protein and carbohydrate metabolism. Anabolic effect, nothing but called synthetic effect on protein and carbohydrate metabolism. So these are all the functions of androgen. Let me go again. Androgen regulate the development and maturation and function of the male accessory sex organs like epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, urethra. But that these hormones stimulate muscular growth, growth of facial and axillary hair, aggressiveness, low pitch of voice, etc. Androgens play a major stimulatory role in the process of spermatogenesis. Formation of spermatozoa is called spermatogenesis. And androgen on the central acts on the central nervous system and influence the male sexual behavior, libido. These hormones produce anabolic effects on protein and carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, next, let's continue with the ovary. The females have a pair of ovaries located in the abdomen. The females have a pair of ovaries located in the abdomen. Ovary is the primary female sex organ which produces one ovum during each menstrual cycle. Details will come in female reproductive system. In addition, ovary also produces two groups of steroid hormones. What are they? Estrogen and progesterone. The ovary is composed of ovarian follicle and stromal tissues. The estrogen is synthesized and secreted mainly by the growing ovarian follicles. After ovulation, the ruptured follicle is converted into corpus luteum, which secrete mainly progesterone. Then estrogens produce a wide range of ranging actions such as stimulation of the growth, activity of the female secondary sex organs and development of growing ovarian follicles, appearance of the female secondary sexual characters like high pitch of voice, the mammary gland development. Then estrogens also regulate female sexual behavior. Next, the progesterone. Progesterone support pregnancy. Progesterone also acts on the mammary gland and stimulate the formation of alveoli, sac-like structures which store the milk, and also in the milk secretion. They're all the activities of the progesterone. Okay, so progesterone support pregnancy and also act on the mammary glands and stimulate the formation of alveoli and also in the milk secretion. They're all activities of the progesterone. We have some more hormones, hormones of the heart, kidney, and gastrointestinal tract. Now you know about the endocrine glands and their hormones. However, as mentioned earlier, hormones are also secreted by some tissues which are not endocrine glands. Then, for example, the atrial wall of our heart secrete a very important peptide hormone is called atrial natriuretic factor. Atrial natriuretic factor, which decreases blood pressure. When blood pressure is increased, ANF is secreted, which causes dilation of the blood vessel, and that reduces the blood pressure. ANF, atrial natriuretic factor, produced from the right atrium of the heart. Now, moving on. Juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney produce a peptide hormone called erythropoietin, which stimulates erythropoiesis, formation of RBC. Erythropoiesis means production of RBC or formation of RBC. Then endocrine, let me say again because this is a very important question in case of need point of view. Juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney produce a peptide hormone called erythropoietin, which stimulates the erythropoiesis, formation of RBC. Then endocrine cells present in the different parts of the gastrointestinal tract secrete four major peptide hormones, namely gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, and gastric inhibitory peptide, which is also called enterogastrin. Then let's talk one after another. The gastrin. Gastrin acts on gastric glands and stimulate the secretion of hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen. Gastrin for stimulate the secretion of hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen. Talking about the secretin, secretin acts on exocrine pancreas and stimulate the secretion of water and bicarbonate ion. Secretin stimulate the secretion of water and bicarbonate ion. CCK, cholecystokinin, acts on both pancreas and gallbladder and stimulate the secretion of pancreatic enzymes and bile juice. I'm highlighting the issues where that questions can come and possibility in examination. Okay, so then gastric inhibitory peptide inhibits gastric secretion and motility. And several other non-endocrine tissues secrete hormones called growth factors. These factors are essential for the normal growth of tissues and their repairing and regeneration. For example, insulin-like growth factor released from the pituitary gland. So that's it. That means several other non-endocrine tissues are going to secrete hormones. Then not only endocrine glands, non-endocrine glands are also going to secrete these growth factors. That's the thing to be remembered. Okay, now let's continue. Mechanism of hormone action. Mechanism of hormone action. The hormones produce their effects on target tissues by binding to specific proteins called hormone receptors located in the target tissues only. Located in the target tissues only. The hormone receptors present on the cell membrane of the target cells are called membrane bound receptor, and the receptors present inside the target cell are called as intracellular receptor. So that means if you take a target cell, the presence of receptors of two types of possibility. The receptor may present inside the cell, the receptor may present outside the cell. Okay, so let me draw like receptor, receptor like. Receptor may present inside the cell, receptor may present outside the cell. So what you are saying that membrane bound receptor, these are membrane bound receptor and receptor present inside, that we say these are intracellular receptors. Okay, so mostly nuclear receptors because they are present inside the nucleus, intracellular receptors. Next, binding of hormone to its receptor leads to the formation of hormone receptor complex. That means when a hormone comes and bind here, when a hormone come and bind here, we say that as hormone receptor complex. You can see in both cases that either extracellular or intracellular. Okay, so each receptor is specific to one hormone only, and hence receptors are specific. Okay, then hormone receptor complex formation leads to certain biochemical changes in the target tissue, and the target tissue metabolism, hence physiological functions, are regulated by hormones. On the basis of their chemical nature, hormones can be divided into groups. So from the beginning, when we are reading, we are mentioning this is a peptide hormone, this is a protein hormone, this is steroid hormone. Likewise, just formality will make it back again. Peptide, polypeptide, and protein hormones are insulin, glucagon, pituitary hormone, hypothalamic hormones are called as peptide, polypeptide, and protein hormone. Then steroid hormones like cortisol, testosterone, estradiol, and progesterone are said to be steroid hormone. Iodothyronins are called thyroid hormone. Amino acid derivatives is given as epinephrine. Okay. Then hormones which interact with the membrane bound receptors normally do not enter the target cell but generate secondary messengers. We call them as secondary messenger, maybe cyclic AMP or IP3 inositol triphosphate or calcium ion, which in turn regulate the cellular metabolism. That we have to see in the diagram. The hormones which interact with intracellular receptor, who are having intracellular receptor steroid hormones, and iodothyronin are having intracellular receptor. I'll show you once again the receptor. This is the receptor. Okay, so what they are saying, the steroid hormones that and iodothyronins are having intracellular receptors. Steroid hormones like cortisol, testosterone, estradiol, and progesterone, and iodothyronin like thyroid hormone can come inside and they form hormone receptor complex. Okay, they mostly regulate the gene expression. What is their function actually? They're going to sit on the DNA, gene expression. They work on gene expression of chromosome function by the interaction of the hormone receptor complex with the genome. The cumulative biochemical reactions result in physiological and developmental effects. Let us see that. Let us see that whatever we read now, that is the hormone, estrogen. The estrogen came inside and form hormone receptor complex, and that work on the DNA, which make the transcription mRNA, then followed by translation, result the protein and physiological responses as the tissue growth and differentiation has done. This is the diagram which we learn now, which we explained. Okay. So then let's continue. Let's continue here that in case of external growth, that hormone receptor complex, if it is present outside, what happens? We need to check it out. Let us see. That you see here that we said some of them that having hormone outside, that hormone receptor complex is formed. Okay, that is given response 1. Then that generate the second messenger. Second messenger may be that we said cyclic AMP or calcium ion or inositol triphosphate that create a biochemical response, and that create the physiological response. Okay, that create the physiological response, and which makes the action like ovarian growth. Okay, so here given hormone is FSH. FSH is having membrane bound receptor. Hormone receptor complex is formed, and that given the response 1, and there from second messenger generated, it may be cyclic AMP or calcium ion, and from there biochemical response, and then the physiological response. In these cases, the action is going to be multiplied over that action. Likewise, the action is going to be amplified. Okay, so this is all about the chemical control and coordination. We came to the end of chemical control and coordination.